you want to connect people's strengths, a reasonable question is, how do you make strengths visible? I really like to do this in almost any process that I'm part of, because many people feel like they're never quite seen in the ways that they want to be seen. And if you can give people control over how they're seen, and you can bring their strengths into visibility in ways that are very productive for the task of the group, it's a very powerful way of connecting those strengths in productive ways. So one of the things I like to do is something I call the portrait activity, but sometimes I'll refer to it as drawing on strengths, or even making strengths visible, where you have pods of people, with people sitting in the center facing out, and people sitting on the outside circle facing directly the people in the center. So you might have a pod of 8 with 4 people in a cross in the center facing out, and 4 chairs around facing in. And the people on the outside are artists whose job it is to help make those strengths visible. And they, in turn, begin to draw the person they see in front of them and to interview them in a way that brings forward the strengths, and where the strengths can then be recorded on the person's portrait. We're talking about doing a portrait of someone's face. And any 4 questions can be used. This is 4 questions because in this case we have 4 stations, but it could be 5 or 3 or 8 depending on how you wanted to do it. But often basic questions that I love to use are, in the first case, what's something you know about, what's something you care about, what's something you love to do with your hands, and what's a place you stand, something people can count on in you. Think of that as head, heart, hands, feet. And in each case, people begin to draw a portrait. The first person gets kind of outline, and is then also interviewing the person opposite them and saying, so, what's something that you know about? And is finding out those things and recording those things, and also beginning to draw the profile of the face. After about a minute, a very short amount of time, everyone who's been drawing rotates to the right. And so the person coming up behind is picking up the portrait, which now has the beginning of an outline of the face and also some enumerated things that the people know about, which they said. And then they're saying, and what's something you care about? And again, they're adding those to the portrait along with the hair and ears and eyes, or whatever seems to be missing. And again, the third question, something you do with your hands and a place you stand. But depending on what the nature of the exercise was, you could be asking something quite different. You could say, and what's your vision for what the coffee house should be, or whatever it is you're there to do together. So you could ask any 4 questions. But the point is that at the end of that, you have a portrait where people are being seen in terms of strengths, which are going to build connections in the group. In this case, obviously, you found out about the collective assets in the group that are knowledge and skill-based assets. You found out a lot about the different motivations in the group, about what really is most important to people. You found out about both some of the dexterity, some of the manual things, but you also find out more about what people care about by what they like to do with their hands. And you also find out something about their core commitments. And in the process, you've identified a community which can be counted on, which knows things, which cares about things, and is willing and interested in connecting. And that can become the basis. Often a follow-up activity to that will be for me to take Post-it notes, and at the next break, if I'm dealing with people who see each other with some regularity, to just say, take as many Post-it notes as you feel like you know the people in the room, and try to add at least one strength to each portrait of a person you know, something that's already not up there but that you've noticed in them. And that really creates a strong sense of validation in the group. that people are seen for their strengths, and those strengths can then be put to work in the course of whatever work they're there to do together.